for correspondence. Laura Jost, email February 10th, 2025, providing her comments relative to the project. Amanda Nawaki, a letter was received today. It's been provided to the board. Claudia Larrabee, email February 10th, 2025, relative to the project. Renee Rowley, February 10th, 2025, email relative to her comments regarding the project. Tara Reynolds, February 10th, 2025, email relative to the project. Vicki Van Elfen, February 10th, 2025, email relative to her comments regarding the project. Rachel Muldowney, February 10th, 2025, email relative to her comments to the project. James Kaiser, February 10th, 2025, email relative to his comments to the project. Laura Stoltz, February 7th, 2025, email relative to her comments regarding the project. And then finally, Taylor Robinson, a February 10th, 2025 email relative to their comments relative to the project. Those have all been received by the village and provided to the board for its consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will, at this time, we'd like to open the meeting to public comment. And please note that we will hear comments at this time on all matters, and this will be the only public comment session during tonight's meeting. If anybody would like to come to the front.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Dunveston. Is it on? Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Lisa Dunveston. I wanted to touch on the $45 million referendum. I have a few comments or questions. Is it okay if I ask questions, or should it only be comments?
I can keep track of the questions, and then we can respond after. Typically, we don't do that during the.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So I fully support 2/3 of this referendum. I did attend the Zoom meeting, the first one, so I think I understand the project plans. I support the water main replacement in a big way, street resurfacing, sewer work. That all sounds great. That's like 2/3 of the project. Having been on the village board, I know the pain you guys are going through trying to find the funds to do what we need to do, and so I totally get that. And renewing the GeoBods, et cetera, I totally get it, no problem. My husband and I have no problem paying $45 million. I mean,
Thank you.
sorry, paying our share of the $45 million for the bonds to cover these infrastructure projects. What I do not support is the $15 million-ish that's proposed for sidewalk projects and streetscapes. I guess I just don't understand why the village is justifying sidewalk expenditures being paid by all residents when, number one, the village obtained a grant to develop safe routes to school. So the way I understand that includes sidewalks. So it sounds like the big selling point for sidewalks was getting kids to school, and that seems to cover that. Now, I don't know if we have to pay 20% or something like that for that, but it sounds like a big portion of that might be covered by the grant. So there's already some funding available for sidewalks. And some areas of the village don't really need sidewalks or don't want more sidewalks. If there's a sidewalk on one side of the street and it's a commercial entity on the other side, try again, the other opposite way. If the sidewalk's on the commercial side and the private residents don't want the candy wrappers or whatever on their side, I understand that. And to ask them to pay for something they don't want just doesn't sit well. Many residents have already paid what I'll call their share for the sidewalks in front of their house. So another situation where it just doesn't seem fair to ask them to pay for other residential sidewalks. I also see that the infrastructure projects, the true infrastructure projects, seem much more critical than sidewalks and streetscapes. I'd rather see the whole $45 million devoted to streets, water mains, and sewers. Especially these unexpected water main breaks that we continue to see on a regular basis. Obviously, it affects the residents near the break. Something else that I worry about is how long our public works staff is going to last with all those water main breaks and working in the cold weather, et cetera. I could see them being disheartened with all the unexpected breaks and having to address those on an emergency basis. Will we end up with a staffing issue? Because that department has a hard time replacing people or adding people as needed. Just all of those items, to me, make water main breaks a really big issue. Another reason that I'm concerned about that 1/3 of the project that was presented, I can't count how many times the village has promoted a new streetscape plan for downtown Western Springs, and after every streetscape can't say that very fast, streetscape project, someone seems to suggest a new one. So I guess I don't see why streetscapes are deemed such a high priority over water mains and streets and sewers. Both sides of downtown have a TIF district. I've attended several of the annual financial meetings for those districts, so I know funds are available for downtown projects. The TIF funds could be used for the downtown improvements like the streetscapes. So in short, I just think that all of that 45 million should be used for true infrastructure, not sidewalks and streetscapes that people may or may not want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Would anyone else like to address the board?
George Rogers. I'd like to ask Ellen, that last study was, who was that by MWD?
Oh, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District
Okay.
is who is funding that study, yes.
Okay, so the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District is going to do this study, and what they're going to find is that we need more retention area between the Highlands and Ridgewood. I think we can all agree on that. So what before us tonight is going to be McNaughton, where we're going to eliminate all that area that could be retention. It just seems like we're putting the cart before the horse. We really need to see what this study is going to show before we eliminate possible solutions. And I implore you to use some common sense and not continue to make what I consider to be bad decisions. You know, my family has contributed to the funds of this village more than $100,000. I've lived here almost 33 years. My wife owned Boone Animal Hospital for over 2 decades. So through those taxes, we've contributed $100,000. My house now floods. I'd like to ask Amy, do I have to disclose that on my real estate deals, that my house floods?
Yes.
Yes. What do you think that's done to the value of my house? Increased it? No. So not only has it impacted me financially, it's impacted me from a quality of life standpoint. Now we're considering putting this monstrosity in the village of Western Springs, the Mayberry Charming Township. It just doesn't make sense that we continue to make these mistakes and do something that's going to eliminate potential solutions down the road. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's on.
Well, good evening, members of the board, Manager Baer, Attorney Jerusik, and Clerk Timick back there. Doesn't get recognition very often.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Okay. The Naughton Group has done some amazing developments. I saw the schedule of what they have accomplished. Unfortunately, I don't see this as one of them. What I have written many times in emails is the density issue. Totally filling up that space with homes that make no sense. The variations sought tonight are from the chart. You're looking at changing the minimum front yard from currently 25 feet to 7 feet. Front yard, 25 feet to 7 feet. Backyard, going from 30 feet to 12.3 7.5. What does a family with children do with that kind of space? I just don't get it. This should have targeted empty nesters. Far less buildings, smaller in structure, one level. Bill Rodiger, former village president, hadn't spoken to him directly about this, but I heard from folks that they couldn't find a place in Western Springs. They wanted to get a single level home, like my wife and I did. We had to move from ours, but we found a place in Western Springs, in Ridgewood, beautiful Ridgewood. And so it's unfortunate that I think that they missed the target audience, because I don't know who's going to move into an area, young families, when they don't have the space. Moving on, the big thing to me is the water runoff. Here was an opportunity for Naughton to come and solve a problem. But what I'm hearing is they're not going to fix the problem, but they won't make it any worse. And that, to me, is not a good neighbor. A good neighbor comes in and tries to make things better. This is not making things better. One final line. Foxford Station, across the tracks. Back in 2014, when I was on the board, the developer came in with a proposal. 52 rental units for that same building. There was an outrage, an outpouring from the community saying, we don't need that. The developer went back, and we now have 29 condos. Think about it, 52 rental units in that space, cars for each of those, 52 cars at least, maybe more. How do you handle that? That's a density issue, which is what I see at 4600 Wolf. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Would anyone else like to come up?
Oh, can you use the microphone? Thank you.
Hi, we have to identify ourselves.
Just your name.
Renee Rowley. Okay, to stay brief, I'm just going to read 2 emails, and one of them was written by my neighbor, Laura Jost, who could not attend tonight, but really wanted to.
Just make sure the mic is up.
Okay, thank you. This is from the Josts. Following the most recent meeting, it has become evident that the proposed townhome development has not been evaluated with the thoroughness expected from a professional perspective. The spokesperson for McNaughton Homes remarked, somewhat dismissively, that the development would require 20 acres to be feasible, which suggests a lack of careful consideration for the project's scopes and requirements. Furthermore, the owner of McNaughton Homes appears to have disregarded all factual information that could influence the decision-making process, raising concerns about the company's integrity. Notably, Hinsdale and some other neighboring towns have declined to engage in business with McNaughton Homes, despite these neighboring communities being approached with similar proposals. This raises the question, why have these towns rejected the company's previous attempts? Western Springs prides itself on its integrity, intellectual capacity, and sincerity. As members of this community, we respectfully pose the question, should we proceed with a company that appears to conflict with our values and principles? As always, thank you for your consideration and communication, and that's from Paul and Laura Jost. And I just wanted to read to you mine. As a longtime resident of Ridgewood, I've attended almost every meeting, written more than once, and spoken several times now on the topic of 5600, of the proposed 5600 development. I've tried to be accepting of projects that would increase our village's tax revenue base so that we can all benefit from the speedier improvements to our infrastructure that we so sorely need. However, when all is said and done, I still feel that this project is very bloated in terms of just how many units will be stuffed into an obvious too small of a space. If we will need to use this increased tax revenue to provide any extra infrastructure for the development itself, for flood control, streets, power, connectivity, Highland School, or anything else, without a substantial net gain for the village, then I'm vehemently opposed to the approval of this project. Above all, I'm very concerned about the notion that there will ever be flooding standing water at the junction between Heritage Court and the development's main street. No village should ever approve a residential project in which it is a known definite possibility that the new residents or the residents of connecting Heritage Court would ever have access to each and every one of their dwellings limited, even for a half hour from any direction, even for a 100-year storm. Our concerns about flooding in Ridgewood itself have been expressed many times by both me and my many neighbors who have the time to speak up. But I still think of all the new young families who have now moved into Ridgewood, as my husband and I did 32 years ago, who are busy raising small children and juggling 2 careers as we did, and who have not had the time to speak up as well. Like ours, their lives have been made miserable by repeated flooding episodes. This must stop. I know this sounds dramatic, but it really should be illegal for a village to approve of any project that can cause harm to its new residents or to existing residents who live around this new project. The village board has a responsibility to the village as a whole to make sure that all new housing meets the high standards of one of the most sought-after communities in our region. To tout this development as perfect for empty nesters with its lack of a first-floor master bedroom and huge numbers of stairs is ridiculous. 6 steps just to enter the unit, another 20 steps up to the second level, with the starting price of $850,000 per unit. Asking another $40,000 to $45,000 for an elevator is way over the top. These units, therefore, will probably fall into the hands of unknowing, affluent, young couples who do not yet know how important it is to really have a yard where kids can play safely and be off the streets. And so I ask also what planning has been done for Highlands. Simply said, we need enough green space, interior space, and common space for every dwelling built in Western Springs, always. We should have first planned for how many units this small tract of land could responsibly hold, taking into account on-street parking, safe and speedy auto passage throughout the entire complex, especially in times of emergency, foot traffic, flooding, schools, and demands on our power grids, water, sewer, internet, etc. It goes on and on. Only then should actual building plans have been entertained. It is not too late to right this ship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Amy Bank. I also live in the Ridgewood neighborhood and want to draw your attention to my concerns with the development of D600 Wolf Road. I've lived in Ridgewood for 6 or so years now, and these 100-year floods have come at least 3 times so far where our street is impassable and it's a river running down my street. The fact that McNaughton is proposing or requesting a variance and saying that there's going to be 1.5 feet of water on the street is ridiculous. My old house in Western Springs in Field Park would get 1.5 feet of water in the backyard, and it's miserable. Not being able to drive to your house, in my case, that time was my garage. There's been many times over the last 6 or so years that we haven't been able to go to our house because of the flooding that has happened. So I know it's talked a lot about being on Ridgewood Drive, but it comes from Grand. I've walked by. It comes from the fire station down Long Meadow Lane all the way to Ridge. The other variances that they're requesting, that's been mentioned before, the size of the lots, the density of the population, it's just something that we really need to take into consideration, and just there's too much water already. We're Western Springs, it's not supposed to be springs of water everywhere and make it impassable for us. So please take that into consideration and look out for us, and we don't want our houses to flood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Deborah David. I second everything that everyone has said. I've been there too. I mentioned it before, for 20 years. It is just cramming all of those into that small space is just not right. We had a party yesterday, and so did our neighbors. There were so many cars. At the onset, there were more than 15 or 20 cars all the way down the street. There's not enough parking. The flooding is a concern. All the variances, it seems like it's just not fair, and it is not the spot for it. Now, the complex over there on 47th, almost to East, that's a standalone area, and that is a better place to have 30 units. The water pressure is an issue already, and putting 30 more units in there, it's really going to cause it to be a lot worse. There are so many concerns, and it's not just me. I mean, I know that just today, I think you guys got more than 7 emails. So many people in Ridgewood are opposed to this project. So just please take into consideration. And read Amanda's letter too. She lives right next door to me. So thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the board? Okay. Thank you, everybody. We will move on in our agenda then. We move to the approval of minutes. We have both the January 13th and January 27th, 2025 meeting minutes for approval on tonight's omnibus. Are there any changes or additions? Any issues? Okay. All right. Then moving on in the agenda, we'll begin with, we'll be going through our committee reports and beginning with the General Government Committee report. Trustee Terrell.
I have no report tonight.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next committee will be the Finance Committee report. Trustee Chen.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met last week, and I'm going to go over some items we discussed and are recommending to the full board. The first item is a resolution approving and authorizing a billing services agreement with EMS Management and Consultants. This will be an omnibus item. For background, the village has been working with Andres Medical Billing for over 10 years to manage the entire process of submitting claims to insurance companies and collecting payments for ambulance services provided by the Department of Fire and EMS. In May 2024, Andres Medical Billing was incorporated into a larger company, EMS Management and Consultants. As a result, a new agreement must be established between the village and the new company. No charges or no changes have been made to the fee structure from the old agreement to the new agreement, and the village attorney has reviewed and approved the accompanying agreement and resolution. We reviewed this in finance, and we're fine that we have to move to this new agreement for those services. And then there's 2 budget amendments that we discussed in committee, and we are recommending to the full board. One budget amendment is related to monies that were allocated for 2024 for the project. The project didn't complete in 2024. It's going to complete in 2025, so we have to move the monies that we had allocated into the 2025 budget. The 2 items are the HVAC rooftop units at the Recreation Center. And that project was supposed to complete before the end of 2024. However, it wasn't able to. So there is a budget amendment of $84,159 for that item. And then the completion of the Grand Avenue gymnasium. That project was delayed due to the back order of the basketball backboard fixtures, and it's now projected to be completed in April 2025. So that amount is $44,705, and we recommend approval of those budget amendments. And then lastly is another HVAC-related budget item, and that is for the HVAC control system here at Village Hall. We reviewed this and we recommend approval of this budget amendment in the amount of $51,750 for the 2025 Village Hall HVAC controls contract with the lowest bidder, Air Comfort LLC, which I think will be reported out from your committee as well. Originally, the village had thought that we would not have to replace the control panel. It could remain in place, but it's discovered that they've changed too much in this amount of time, and it needs to have a new control panel. So the 2025 budget was $37,000. The project cost is about $88,750. So we recommend a budget amendment in the amount of $51,750. And those are the items from finance.
Any questions or discussion? I believe those are all in the omnibus.
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to planning and zoning, trustee Nawrocki.
Thank you, President Rudolph. I have many items to cover tonight. Item number 8A, remediation agreement with regards to certain sump pump improvements and water discharge at 4524 and 4528 Grand Avenue. The owners of 4528 Grand Avenue have acquired the neighboring property at 4524 Grand Avenue and plan to demolish the current home to build an addition and a new swimming pool. Engineering staff had previously been called 2 years ago about concerns related to an overactive sump pump causing drainage issues in the right-of-way. Staff had concerns the new development, which includes the addition of a new sump pump, could make the situation worse. As part of the permitting process, staff requested a remediation agreement drafted by the village attorney and signed by signed by the owners, to clarify responsibilities and confirm the owner's commitment to address the situation if the new development is deemed to cause drainage issues on the sidewalk or in the right-of-way. Does anybody have any questions about that? Does it make sense? Okay. There's no objections from the board. This is on the omnibus portion of the meeting for consideration. Item number 8B, 2025 official zoning map. Every year, the village adopts an official zoning map as required by state statute. The map is required to incorporate any zoning changes from the previous calendar year. There were no zoning classifications since the publishing of the last map. As such, the changes on the map relate to the date. The Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed the request and recommended approval of the easement. If the board is amenable to approving this item, it can be placed on the February 24th meeting for approval. I think this was one of the first things I actually read at a meeting, actually. Item number 8C, Timber Trails subdivision sidewalk and public utility easements for lots 222, 223, 274, 275, and 276. On March 21st, 2005, the village board annexed the property known as the Timber Trails Country Club into the village. A conditional use permit for a planned development and an annexation agreement were also approved for the construction of a 338-unit mixed-use, single-family residential development with a variety of amenities. One such amenity is a pedestrian circulation system. The pedestrian circulation system is comprised of a system of sidewalks generally behind and within the yards of the single-family lots. Some of the sidewalks are located within easements on private properties. There are a few sections located on the 5 lots listed on the agenda. In 2010, the village approved easements for these properties, but they were not properly recorded. They are now under different ownership, thus the approvals needed to be updated. This is generally a cleanup item. The Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed the documents and recommended approval of the easements. If the board is amenable to approving this item, it can be placed on the February 24th meeting for approval. Does all that make sense? Okay, a lot of sidewalk talk. Item number 8D, French Market, 6th addendum to the market license agreement between the Village of Western Springs and, I should have wrote this down, Bensidium. Is that it? Bensidoon, thank you. USA Incorporated, relative to operation of a French market in the village. Staff and the committee are recommending to extend the contract with the operator of the village's French market for another 3-year term. The village's French market had been operated by, I'm gonna mess it up again, Bensidoon, thank you, since 2008. The market season would continue to operate from May to the end of September on Wednesdays from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. The Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed the request and recommended approval of the easement. Of the agreement, I think that's what I'm saying. If the board is amenable to approving this item, it can be placed on the February 24th meeting for approval. Okay. Item numbers 8E, 8F, and 8G. These items all relate to the First United Methodist Church at 4300 Howard Avenue, which was discussed at the January 13th board meeting. As such, they are on the omnibus portion of tonight's meeting. Item number 8H. This item is the adoption of the downtown market assessment update that was discussed at the last two board meetings. As such, it is on the omnibus portion for tonight's meeting. Items numbers 8I through 8P. These items relate to the proposal to redevelop the property at 5600 Wolf Road with 29 townhomes. These items are on the old business portion of tonight's meeting for consideration. And that concludes my report for tonight, President Rudolph.
Very good. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on now to Public Works and Water Committee report. Trustee Fink.
All right, thank you. The first three items have been discussed previously at other meetings, but what the issue is, it's an IDOT. IDOT needs all the forms on a specific, all the requests on a specific form, and we need the BLR form filled out, and the village realized that they didn't have this, so we need to put all these items on a BLR form so Heidi can sign them at the end of the day. So the first one is MFT Street Resurfacing Program Engineering with Christopher Berg Engineering. So the Public Works Committee is recommending approving the agreement with the village and Christopher Berg for Phase 2 and 3 engineering. This we discussed in September 2024. Since we're using motor fuel tax money for engineering, we need the BLR form for IDOT approval. Same thing with the next two. Public Works recommends approving the agreement with Baxter and Woodman not to exceed $110,000 and to use the BLR form again. And this is, the scope is unchanged, so we're using $110,000 for motor fuel tax, and this is for, then we're gonna get the money back from the grant and from the Village of LaGrange. So it'll cost the village $27,500. And again, the last one is approving the agreement to use the BLR form for using MFT money for design engineering. All the same issue. The next item is the 2025 IDOT motor fuel authorization maintenance. So every year we have to request money for motor fuel, so Public Works is recommending using $155,000 for sidewalk replacement and road salt. And the next item is the lead service line replacement phase funding nomination form. So again, this is just about another form. So the Public Works Committee is recommending approving the funding nomination form from the state of Illinois state revolving loan form. So if we get approved for this grant, we're going to be using it for Phase 2 design, construction, and construction engineering for the 45 lead service lines that will be replaced this year. And last thing is the water system update. I think everyone might know there have been 11 water main breaks in January from the extreme cold. That's got to be a new record for Western Springs. So it just, the cold has compression on the earth, which makes these things break, but if the pipes weren't 100 years old, I have a feeling they might not break. And the other item is there is a water main break on the 53rd Street between Fair Elms and Commonwealth. The problem is it's beneath the creek. It's an 8-inch water main, and it was installed in the 1960s. And the problem, since it's under the creek, the worry is when they repair it, creek water might get into the water system, and we just have to make sure that doesn't happen. So it's not a concern now, since the water is pressurized and water is always leaking out. There's no fear of infiltration. But we're contracting with V3 on how to safely replace this pipe. But unfortunately, it's going to be about $170,000 at first estimate, and it's not a budgeted item. So that's going to go to finance for discussion as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Trustee Fink? Okay, thank you. Moving on to Properties and Rec, Trustee Avakian.
Okay, my first item is the Village Hall HVAC controls that we sort of heard about from the Finance Committee a little bit. The budget changed a little bit, went up, and the where's my company? There we go. Air Comfort LLC was who the Village Board is recommending the approval to award the business for the Grand Avenue Community Center not to exceed $88,750. Any questions? My second item is the 2025 Grand Avenue Community Center flooring replacement, RFB recommendation. The village issued an RFB for flooring replacement of 6 premier early childhood education partner classrooms at the Grand Avenue Community Center. On Tuesday, February 4th, they received 3 bids, the lowest bidder being NPN Flooring. In addition to the base bid, staff requested alternate pricing for weekend evening work to avoid disruption to the operations of the rec department and for alternative flooring material. The base bid and alternatives from NPN bids came in under the $50,000 budgeted amount. So staff is currently working with Premier staff, the daycare center at Grand Avenue, to determine which scheduling option is the best and least disruptive, cost-effective, all of the above. Premier would pay for any additional costs associated with the alternatives for weekend and overnight work. So I make a motion to advance the awarding of the 2025 Grand Avenue Community Center flooring replacement bid to NPN Flooring for an amount not to exceed $50,000 at the February 24th board meeting. Any questions? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. And a last committee report, Public Health and Safety, Trustee Lewis.
Thank you, President Rudolph. Our committee recently reviewed and is recommending full board approval of an updated Cook County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. The plan attempts to assess potential disasters such as tornadoes, blizzards, or flooding that may impact our area and also outline strategies to address those risks. Director Supert and other members of village staff worked with representatives from the Cook County Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management to update the plan last year. The revised plan was submitted by Cook County to the Illinois Emergency Management Agency and has since been adopted. We're now seeking local approval to adopt this updated plan. And having an updated plan in place is important because it ensures Western Springs will be eligible for federal funding before and after disasters occur. We hope to have that on the omnibus for our next meeting, or even tonight.
Okay, any questions for Trustee Lewis? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. That concludes the committee reports. We'll move on now to the omnibus. Illinois state statutes allow a municipality to collectively vote on a group of ordinances, resolutions, and other motions such as awards of contract, appointments, etc. This is known as an omnibus vote. All the items contained on the omnibus vote list have been previously discussed by the President and Board of Trustees on at least one occasion and often on several occasions. By placing them on the omnibus vote list, a single vote may be taken to approve them. A trustee may remove any item from the list and have it discussed and voted on separately prior to the omnibus vote. Is there any such request? All right, thank you very much. Trustee Terrell.
Madam President, I move that the following motions, ordinances, and resolutions be approved under an omnibus vote. Agenda item A, a motion to approve the remediation agreement between the Village of Western Springs and homeowners Doug King and Natalie King with regards to certain sump pump improvements and water discharge. Agenda item B, a motion to approve the Gilbert Avenue resurfacing design engineering, MFT resolution form BLR 09110A. Agenda item C, a motion to approve the January 13th, 2025 and January 27th, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting minutes as read. Agenda item D, resolution number 25-2866, a resolution approving a plat of abrogation for public sidewalk easement, address 4300 Franklin Avenue, Western Springs, Illinois, and approving the termination of letter of agreement for construction and maintenance of a public sidewalk and abrogation of easement for a public sidewalk to allow for the removal of the public sidewalk and public parking spaces within the 43rd Street right-of-way adjacent to Lot 1 and Lot 9 in the Field Park subdivision, Western Springs, Illinois. Agenda item E, resolution number 25-2867, a resolution approving the approval and execution of an assignment, assumption, and consent agreement for the removal of a public sidewalk and certain public parking spaces, installation of a new public sidewalk, and restoration of 43rd Street right-of-way at the 4300 Howard Avenue property in the Village of Western Springs, Lot 1, 8, and 9 in Field Park subdivision, and a related redevelopment agreement to be entered into between the Village of Western Springs, Illinois, and 4300 Franklin Western Springs LLC to allow for the completion of the work. Agenda item F, resolution number 25-2876, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a billing services agreement and business associate addendum with EMS Management and Consultants Incorporated of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, for the provision of emergency medical services billing and collection services. Agenda item G, resolution number 25-2877, a resolution authorizing the acceptance and approval of the Downtown Western Springs Market Assessment dated February 10th, 2025, and prepared by Tesca Associates Incorporated for the Village of Western Springs. Agenda item H, resolution number 25-2880, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a local public agency engineering services agreement, IDOT Form BLR 05530, between the Village of Western Springs and Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited for the performance of Phase 2 design and Phase 3 construction engineering services relating to the 2025 motor fuel tax, that's MFT, asphalt roadway resurfacing project, 45th Street between Gilbert Avenue and Wolf Road, not to exceed engineer's fee of $84,850. Resolution item I, resolution number 25-2881, a resolution authorizing the adoption of the update of the 2024 Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Agenda item J, resolution number 25-2882, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a local public agency engineering services agreement, IDOT Form BLR 05530, between the Village of Western Springs and Baxter and Woodman Limited for the performance of Phase 1 design engineering services related to the Gilbert Avenue resurfacing project, not to exceed engineer's fee $110,000. Agenda item K, ordinance number 25-3236, an ordinance rescinding and repealing the Board of Trustees' approval of ordinance number 18-2934, which was an ordinance approving the conditional use permit for the installation and operation of an early childhood education center at the 4300 Howard Avenue property to facilitate the demolition of a church building and removal of a public sidewalk and on-street public parking spaces, abrogation of a public sidewalk easement, installation of a new public sidewalk, and restoration of 43rd Street right-of-way in the Village of Western Springs, Illinois. It's lots 1, 8, and 9 in Field Park subdivision. Agenda item L, ordinance number 25-3245, an ordinance approving budget amendment / transfer $10,000 to the fiscal year 2025 operating budget in the Recreation Fund. Agenda item M, ordinance number 25-3246, an ordinance approving budget amendments / transfer $10,000 to the fiscal year 2025 operating budget in the general fund.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
President Rudolph.
Aye.
The ordinances, resolutions, and motions contained in the agenda of February 10th, 2025 are hereby adopted or approved.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 16, new business. Are there any new business items? Okay, thank you. If not, we'll move on to old business. Okay. Under old business, there are 8 items related to the proposed Heritage Springs development for consideration. Attorney Jerusik, I believe you're going to briefly introduce each item prior to any motion, discussion, and subsequent vote by the Village Board of Trustees.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Just a preliminary comment, the redevelopment agreement that will be voted on tonight, over the weekend there were a couple minor amendments to it, and just to clarify for everybody, at page 15A, I added a subrogation provision, which is highlighted in the packet, the new one that you received. Again, it's just to further protect the village's interest in the event of any claim of any kind that is filed, and also under 15B, under the developer's risk. We expanded the language to make sure that the developer will have either builder's risk or similar coverage as they complete both the site development improvements and any vertical construction, should the project be approved tonight or at some point. The other amendment that has been added to the document is there was concern at the last meeting relative to pedestrian safety between the site and the Highland School. And there is a pedestrian crosswalk at 59th Street that people do use. It is controlled by flashing lights and a push button. Nevertheless, the village has added a condition to this project that, in summary, requires the developer to provide a detailed construction traffic control plan and operations manual that will be reviewed and approved by the police chief, the village engineer, and the community development director prior to the issuance of any site development permit if this project is approved. In addition to the plan and operations manual, it's clear that the developer will have to contribute towards the cost of either reimbursing the village or the school district for crossing guards or other traffic control personnel who will be employed to assist with pedestrians traveling to and from Highland School on school days during pickup and drop-off times while the development is ongoing. So that was added to the approval documents, those two items. And so let's move to the first item. It's Resolution 2878. This resolution deals with the waiver of the 5-acre minimum land requirements under the Plan Unit Development Guidelines, and also deals with the reduction in certain plan unit development submittal requirements, as well as recognizing the text amendments and variations that from the bulk regulations that are requested to be approved as part of the overall development. The two submittal requirements that were waived was a market study. In lieu of a required market study, the developer did provide a market and financial data study that they prepared based on other townhome units and developments in the village. There was also a requirement for a site lighting plan. Due to the small size of this development, the site lighting details and specifications were identified on submitted development plans and will be reviewed and approved by village staff as part of the plan review process. That is resolution number 1.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I would have a motion to approve resolution number 25-2878 titled, "A Resolution Approving a Waiver of the 5-Acre Minimum Land Area Requirement under Section 10-8-3, that's guidelines, of the Western Springs Village Code, and the reduction of certain plan development submission materials under Section 10-8-8, submittal requirements, of the Western Springs Village Code as requested by applicant/contract purchaser McNaughton Development LLC for approval of a conditional use for planned development to construct the proposed 29-unit Heritage Crossing Townhome development at the property commonly known as 5600 South Wolf Road, Western Springs, Illinois."
Thank you. And is there a second?
Can I ask a
When do we
question?
get to discuss? I
Yeah,
thought we
if
were
this is-
reading through everything.
If this is voted on, is this like a done deal? I don't understand what's
Yeah.
happening.
Sorry, thank you. We're following Robert's rules on these, so we have a motion, we'll have a second, and then there's discussion on the item, and then the roll call vote on each item, on each of the 8 items. So, standard procedure.
Okay.
Okay? So I had a motion from trustee
That was
Terrell.
my motion.
Okay. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone on the board like to start a discussion of this item, the resolution number 25-2878?
I would, but I would like to discuss the plan in general, so I don't have to repeat myself for all 8 of these motions. The Plan Commission has found in 3 separate hearings that sufficient evidence was presented to conclude that the zoning standards relating to the zoning relief were met. There were over 70 conditions which were put on the developer, and I believe all of those were met through the course of this project. We as a village board cannot unreasonably deny zoning approvals where the public hearing before the Plan Commission showed that the developer satisfied the zoning standards concerning the zoning relief sought. Now, I have read the documents, and I've read the citizens' comments, even the ones presented today. I've listened to the villagers who are passionate and very knowledgeable in their testimony here. It is my judgment, though, that the objections to the zoning relief have been addressed or resolved by the developer with its updated revised plans. Regarding the stormwater drainage issue, I note that the expansion of the existing stormwater basin and construction of additional on-site drainage basins will double the amount of on-site stormwater detention capacity this property receives, and we are required to accept under law the water flowing from LaGrange Highlands, but I find that the project may very well have a benefit to the stormwater issue that's presently there now and will not increase the stormwater flow. With respect to density, I acknowledge that the variations from the recommended 5-acre lot size in the village's DCO, which are guidelines, as well as the variations in the setbacks and side yards contained in our code requirements, but find that we have waived the 5-acre guidelines for other residential developments which have benefited our village. I believe the same could be said by this development. Most density concerns with this project are going to be limited to and inherent in the self-contained nature of this property. There's no way to predict who will purchase these townhomes, but based on the projected price and the nature of the development, I believe there will be fewer families and thus a more manageable number of new villagers exiting to and entering from Wolf Road. Our village will enforce any violations of the construction site so that Park Place is free from construction vehicles, and the Wolf Road entrance will be carefully monitored, as we heard from Attorney Jerusik tonight with some of the village guidelines. Other concerns such as drinking water, impacts to sewers, impacts to local schools have been adequately addressed by the developer working through the Plan Commission. The developers have substantially complied with the requirements governing special use permits, and I believe that this plan should move forward. That's all I have.
Thank you. Additional discussion?
I just want to, I appreciate that the crossing guards and the safety have been addressed. That was important. I think the construction being contained answers a lot of some of the, or at least to me, says they're going to take care of some of that problem. I think there's going to be a lot of families and empty nesters that want these properties. I mean, this weekend there was a house that, a cute townhouse that, yeah, this weekend there was a cute, similar townhouse kind of set up, well, not, whatever. And, you know, it was crazy. It was a bidding war and it was nuts. There's a low demand of inventory, and I think people of all shapes and sizes are going to be looking at this. So to the question of density, what was happening when we talked to the schools? What did we do, or what did you guys do? Like, LaGrange Highlands is okay if 13 families move in?
What we provide is an estimate to the schools. I don't know if Director Ballone, would you like to take that question, please?
So the village has provisions related to impact fees, both for recreation and for school. In our code, we have a calculation of the impact fee that would be required to be paid by the developer. Those are calculations that have been in our code for over about 15 years, and are impacts that have been paid by other developments such as Foxford, 17 Ogden, and 514 Hill Grove as well.
So we didn't talk to the school?
Schools were provided links to our packets and had not provided comment to us.
In my experience, the school districts typically follow these developments, and they come to us if they have concerns about the estimates on the number of children that may be in a new development.
And has anyone, I mean, maybe it doesn't even make financial sense to the builder anymore, if you do less than 29 units? Is that like the where they're happy? I mean, could you do less, or would it make sense, or would you do it, or? No, 29 is where we live. So, I don't know. I'm confused on my opinion on the density issue because I see both sides of this argument.
Yeah.
I think we've heard a lot of public comment, and I know I'm not being naive that we've probably on this board not read all of it, because we had a 4,400-page agenda today, and there's been 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meetings to this, so not everybody's gonna read everything. But every public comment has not been in favor of this project going forward. At the end of the day, we work for our constituents, and that's what we should be listening to, not, you know, oh, this is, your developer says we should put it in there. We've heard a lot about, oh, the market needs this. Western Springs is a different market. We are a home-based community, not a townhouse-based community. And I brought up last time, Timber Trails, yes, that's off the, we'll say the beaten path. It's Wolf and Plainfield, 2 busy, very busy streets, all the townhomes back up there. The houses are set inside, away from everything else. This is, as many residents have said, you're putting something in that's gonna be almost like a separate entity to Western Springs. It's gonna be its own thing, its own street, own people. It doesn't fit into what we have in our surveys of we love, you know, everybody loves Western Springs community feel and small town community, Mayberry, that we all talk about all the time here. This would change that. We're gonna fundamentally change Western Springs with this type of development coming in. We don't have anything like this townhouse-wise that is this large, this close to communities and things. And it's interesting how the meeting started off with all the benefits of, you know, things that are going into specifically into Ridgewood with flooding and things like that. And I started and got onto this board working on flood control in Ridgewood, and that's how I got brought into here. And so the fact that all the residents are coming out here and voicing their opinions, that's what it was. It was grassroots organization coming up, or grassroots residents going, you know, this is a problem. We want the board to hear it. And the board listened and said, you know what, this is a problem. We need to make these changes. Now our residents are coming to us again with concerns about this, and we should listen to those concerns and really take that into consideration as we're looking at this proposal.
I do feel like the water has been looked at by the, you know, infrastructure committee and the bigger basin and the fact that it's coming anyway. I guess my question is, if nothing happens, if this gets voted down and this old building sits there, what happens then? Are we turning it into a big retention pond? Then this all starts over?
This is a privately owned piece of property. If the private owner chose to sell his property to someone, he has not had expressed any interest in selling it to the village. And at this time, I don't think for what a private developer could pay for this property, the village could pay that. I don't think it would appraise at that dollar amount for the village to expend public dollars to construct a detention pond. So there would have to be agreement by the private owner to sell it to the village.
Or to another project that was different.
Right.
So it could just sit there for a
As
while.
is.
As is.
It could.
And then there's no water improvements whatsoever.
That is correct.
Okay.
Well, I used to serve on the Plan Commission, and I actually read every single word of all of the transcripts from all 3 Plan Commissions that occurred here. So I take a slight offense because it's very serious. The Plan Commission is very serious. Also, I served on the Plan Commission during the Foxford development. I live a block away from Foxford. I had very small children at that time. It was a vacant storefront before it got developed. So, and I remember all of the concerns before Foxford. It's going to change the nature of our community, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if anybody would agree that that's true, but you know, I just feel that the Plan Commission is a rigorous process, and we have to follow. We can only look at the things that they're asking us to look at. I cannot speculate or make further judgments about what is going to happen. So I have to stick with what we are asking to be voted on. So I take the Plan Commission's recommendations. I saw that there were several iterations with the developer. I had a briefing from staff about everything that is involved with this development and all of the iterations and things that have changed. So, and I've read all of the emails that we've received, and I take it very seriously, and I appreciate public comment for sure. But, you know, I serve sort of at large for the whole community, and, you know, there's just the considerations that we have to consider that the Plan Commission reviewed in my mind. So that's all I have to say about that.
I'll say the Plan Commission recommendation carries a lot of weight with me also, and I think the developer has worked with village staff to address some of the biggest concerns expressed by the nearby residents. I was especially pleased to see the entrance proposed development move from Park Place to Wolf Road, and improvements that will essentially double the amount of on-site stormwater detention are another positive. So I'm going to vote to support the project.
No, I think my biggest concern would be about the water. My basement's flooded a couple times, and each time it flooded, I'm telling my wife we're moving, and I'm glad we didn't. And I'm appreciative of the developer. And again, I'm not an engineer. I can only go on the recommendations of what the committee said, and the expert said it's going to help retain water. Extra green space is going to help with that. So I only feel it's a benefit to the city with that. And as far as density, I feel like I drove through. You can't drive through, but I feel like it is between the condos just to the north of it. It would kind of fit in well. Like it would be condos, townhouses in this one little street. So it'd be one street of a higher density. I don't know. To me, it kind of fit well there.
Any other questions or discussions? Yeah, I too I'm pleased to see the doubling of the stormwater retention compared to what we have now, and also to get rid of the big asphalt parking lot that we have now. The speculation as to the quantity and type of residents, I mean, I appreciate the opinion from the expert on the board, but I think it's kind of also not for us to try to figure out. My speculation, and speculation is worth what you pay for it, right, which is zero, because I have it's based on no data. But my speculation is that the people that would move into these townhomes are going to be people who are good neighbors and who would care about the community. I don't know why we would think any differently than that. I also think over the last several months that I too have read every public comment and been to every meeting and understood everything that has been changed and everything that has been worked on over the past 7 months. A lot of work has gone into it around, and it is not something that the village or the staff or this board or the Plan Commission takes lightly at all. In fact, just the opposite, because we don't do this very often. And I think very significant attention and time has been put to this. People in the audience here have put a lot of time, as have all of the staff as well. This is not something that we enter into lightly. So it's a big change. And I'm glad everybody has had a chance to have their say, to write to us. I want everybody to appreciate that we read these. We take this all really seriously. And that will conclude my remarks on it. And I think if no further discussion, I think so we had the motion and the second on the first item. And so just on this first item, I think Clerk Timick, then maybe we have the roll call on the first item.
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Bacon.
I don't know, I think I have to say nay because I'm just not sold. Nay.
Nay.
All right.
The ayes have it. The motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item.
Yeah, the next ordinance is 253239. This approves and updates the long-range plan land use map, which is part of the Western Springs Comprehensive Land Use Plan, for purposes of reclassifying the zoning designation of the 5600 South Wolf property from the O Limited Office Zoning District to the R4 Multiple Family Residence District to allow for the construction of the proposed Heritage Crossing Townhome development.
Okay.
I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 25-3239 titled An ordinance approving and adopting an updated long-range land use map to the Western Springs official comprehensive land use plan for purposes of reclassifying the zoning designation of the 5600 South Wolf Road property, Western Springs, Illinois, from the O Limited Office Zoning District to the R4 Multiple Family Residence District to allow for the construction, the proposed Heritage Crossing Townhome development by applicant contract purchaser McNaughton Development LLC.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. We can discuss further?
This is just changing the zoning of the area.
This is just, yes, specifically that.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, may we have a roll call vote?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Moving on to ordinance number 25-3240.
This ordinance approves a map amendment to rezone the 5600 South Wolf Road property from the O Limited Office Zoning District to the R4 Multifamily District. It approves the application for the conditional use permit for a plan unit development to allow the construction and operation of the 29-unit Heritage Crossing Townhome development. It also approves the combined preliminary and final development plans, which are subject to further plan review process. And it also approves certain development allowances, exceptions, and variations from the village's zoning regulations to include the waiver of the 5-acre minimum lot area requirement and the other reduction in the plan development submission requirements that I discussed at the beginning of this process.
Okay, is there any clarification needed on that? Okay, all right.
I would have a motion to approve ordinance number 25-3240 titled, "An Ordinance Approving a Map Amendment to Rezone the 5600 South Wolf Road Property, Western Springs, Illinois, from the O Limited Office Zoning District to the R4 Multiple Family Residence District, approving an application for a conditional use permit for a planned development for the construction and operation of the proposed 29-unit Heritage Crossing Townhome development located at the 5600 South Wolf Road property, including the approval of the combined preliminary/final development plans, subject to village plan review process, and approval of certain development allowances, exceptions, and variations from the village zoning regulations, including a waiver of the 5-acre minimum lot requirement and a reduction of certain plan development submission requirements."
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. May we have the roll call?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, ordinance number 25-3241.
Yes, President. This is an ordinance that is approving and authorizing the vacation of the 66-foot by 225-foot portion of Lawn Avenue right-of-way adjacent to and west of the 5600 South Wolf Road property located in Western Springs, Illinois. It's also adjacent to Lot 5 and Lot 6 of the Maxted subdivision. It also approves the plat of vacation and reservation of stormwater drainage easement. I would note that this has a special voting requirement. President Rudolph would not cast a vote in the event of a tie. It requires 5 of 6 trustees to vote in favor of this ordinance in order for it to be effective.
And this is the stormwater.
This is the Lawn Avenue right-of-way vacation ordinance.
Okay. Any questions about the specifics?
So we're vacating where the street was to put in the stormwater basin.
Yes, there is an existing stormwater basin that serves the, primarily the Heritage Springs, the existing townhome development that is immediately south of 55th Street, west of the mobile station. That stormwater drainage basin sits within village property, the old dedicated Lawn Avenue right-of-way. This development, the proposal is for the developer to acquire title to that Lawn Avenue right-of-way, including the existing drainage basin, and in lieu of paying over $400,000 to the village of money equal to the purchase price of the right-of-way. Under our right-of-way policy, the developer has agreed to expend over $500,000 of stormwater drainage basin improvements on the site. The board, in its prior conversations, had indicated that in-kind, like-kind exchange of on-site development improvements enhancing the stormwater basin would be like-kind contribution for the payment of consideration that we normally get when we vacate a right-of-way. So that's all incorporated in this. This development, for this particular development plan, contemplates the vacation of this right-of-way in its contribution to the project. If this does not pass, then the project won't go forward because the project plan is based on and dependent on, and all the zoning relief that has been contemplated is based on this area, this lawn avenue, 66 feet by 225 feet, being contributed to the site for purposes of all of the calculations that the underlying development is based on.
So we give them that, and they give us $500,000 worth of the basin?
Of basin.
Basin.
Correct. And, you know, if they do not do that, they would be in breach of the development agreement and the ordinance. There's also a protection that if they were to, let's just say, value engineer the improvements out there and spend less than $500,000, as long as they spend at least the purchase price value, which is over $400,000, there won't be any penalty. But if they were to try to spend less than the purchase price, approximately $400,000, and make improvements that do not equal that, then the village has a recovery, a payment relief, where the developer would have to pay money to the village if it does not spend, its budget on the stormwater enhancements.
Okay.
But, again, this is 5 of 6 trustees, only the trustees vote. That's the 5 trustees voting in favor is the minimum threshold for this measure to pass tonight.
But this is a significant improvement in the water storm retention situation going on.
Village
Yeah.
engineer can address that, and the developer's engineer
I
can
think,
address
yeah,
that.
no, I've heard a lot from the engineers. I think this is a good thing.
Okay.
Then I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 25-3241, titled An Ordinance Approving and Authorizing the Vacation of the 66.00 feet by 225.00 feet portion of the Lawn Avenue right-of-way adjacent to and west of the 5600 South Wolf Road property located in Western Springs, Illinois, and Lot 5 and Lot 6 of the Maxted subdivision, and approving a plat of vacation and reservation of a stormwater drainage easement. Applicant McNaughton Development, LLC.
Thank you. Can we have a second, please?
I will second the motion.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Moving to ordinance number 253242.
Yes, President. This is an ordinance approving a plat of abrogation for an existing storm sewer easement and an existing public utility easement that is located within the 5600 South Wolf Road property to allow for the construction of the 29-unit Heritage Crossing Townhome development.
Anyone have any questions? Okay.
And abrogation, just real quick, it's a fancy word, it just means getting rid of that existing easement on the property. And in another motion later on will be, those type of easements will be put back in place on the property to service the development.
This one goes away.
This one goes away, and the
then-
new ones get put on with the new subdivision.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I'd make a motion to approve ordinance number 25-3242, titled An Ordinance Authorizing the Approval and Execution of a Plat of Abrogation for Storm Sewer Easement and Public Utility Easement located within the property commonly known as 5600 South Wolf Road, Western Springs, Illinois, for the construction of the proposed 29-unit Heritage Crossing Townhome development by applicant/contract purchaser McNaughton Development, LLC.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I will second the motion.
And may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to ordinance number 25-3243.
Yes, this ordinance approves a final plat of the Heritage Crossing re-subdivision for purposes of the 29-unit Heritage Crossing Townhome Development at the 5600 South Wolf Road property. And as I mentioned, this is the re-subdivision that it also includes various easements and platting for the development.
Okay, gotcha.
I have a motion to approve ordinance number 25-3243 titled, "An Ordinance Authorizing the Approval and Execution of a Final Plat of Heritage Crossing Re-Subdivision for the proposed 29-unit Heritage Crossing Townhome Development to be constructed at 5600 South Wolf Road, Western Springs, Illinois, by applicant/contract purchaser McNaughton Development, LLC."
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
And may we have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Resolution number 25-2879.
This is a resolution that approves a redevelopment agreement and maintenance agreement between the Village of Western Springs and McNaughton Development LLC for the Heritage Crossing residential townhome development at the 5600 South Wolf Road. The redevelopment portion of the agreement is, it has a number of conditions and covenants and provisions that can govern the developer's construction out there. And as trustee, or not, excuse me, trustee, Director Vallone indicated there are, we have over 60 conditions of approval that the developer has to comply with. And the maintenance component of this agreement, our code has a stormwater management ordinance, and that ordinance requires that developments like this that provide for stormwater management have certain maintenance provisions and obligations, and this development agreement has all of that. So there is going to be enhanced stormwater drainage improvements. There's going to be significant maintenance obligations to make sure that the stormwater drainage enhancements continue to work for the life of the project. There are protections for the community with respect to making sure that the maintenance of those stormwater facilities are done on a periodic basis. There's annual reporting, there's periodic inspections, and then there's also, this will come back at a later date for the creation of a special service area, and that's a special taxing district that is required as part of this redevelopment agreement. That special taxing district is going to get put in place for this development only, and it is a backstop or a gap stop to make sure that if the HOA doesn't do what it's supposed to do in terms of maintaining the subdivision, in particular maintaining the stormwater management facilities to make sure they work as engineered and designed, that the village can step in and do any repairs, maintenance, or construction to make sure that those enhanced stormwater drainage features do continue to work. And then if the HOA doesn't pay the bill, then the village can levy a tax against only the property owners inside this HOA, inside this subdivision, and they will pay the cost of those improvements, not the general taxpayers of the community. So it has an additional protection that is unique to this particular development, similar to what's in place for Timber Trails, but something that's not in place in other subdivisions in the community. So.
Okay.
Okay, that would be my motion. I'd make a motion to approve resolution number 25-2879 titled, "A Resolution Authorizing the Approval and Execution of Redevelopment and Maintenance Agreement by and between the Village of Western Springs, Illinois, and McNaughton Development, LLC for the Heritage Crossing Residential Townhome Development, 5600 South Wolf Road, Western Springs, Illinois."
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And Last would be ordinance number 25-3244, please.
Yes, and this is an ordinance that approves a minor amendment to an existing conditional use permit for a planned unit development that was issued by the village to the Western Springs Townhome subdivision known as Heritage Springs subdivision, which is immediately north of the proposed project, located at South 55th Street, west of Wolf Road, relative to the construction of an on-street parking spaces within Heritage Court. As part of this development, the McNaughton development, there will be certain improvements made by McNaughton, the developer, to the existing Heritage Springs townhome development immediately to the north, relative to on-street parking improvements to existing Heritage Court. And so this amendment allows for those changes to be made to that townhome development's existing development plan. So it dovetails with this approval of this development as well.
Okay, thank you.
I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 25-3244 titled, "An Ordinance Approving a Minor Amendment to the Conditional Use Permit for a Planned Development Issued for the Western Springs Townhomes Subdivision, the Heritage Springs Subdivision, located south of 55th Street and west of Wolf Road in Western Springs, Illinois, relative to the construction of an on-street parking spaces within Heritage Court."
Thank you. So we have a second?
I second the motion.
And may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Tiro.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Nay.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Vakian.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody, and thank you again to everyone who's been here and everybody who has participated in this. I know it's a lot. Thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to our reports now. We're going to begin with the monthly financial report from Trustee Chen.
There's no report.
All right, thank you. I also do not have a report tonight. Village Manager Bear?
I just have one item. I wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow night at the Thomas Ford Public Library, there will be an open house to discuss the referendum. Village staff will be available between 6 and 8 p.m. at the Thomas Ford Public Library.
All right, thank you very much. And Attorney Jerusik?
No,
I have one other item.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I almost
Manager Bear.
forgot. I'd like to give Director Mastandona a minute of your evening to just give an update on the bond rating call that we had and the results that we received.
Yes, so in anticipation of our Series 2025 alternate revenue bonds for stormwater projects, we anticipate our next sale, our first sale of the year, to be in the next month or two. But village staff recently completed a ratings call process from Standard & Poor's. I'm happy to report that they provided us a credit rating of a AA+, which is the second highest rating on their scale that they have to offer. This is a slight increase compared to the Moody's rating of a AA2 that the village received in 2021. Some factors they provided for such a strong rating were location within the Chicago metropolitan area, local demographic metrics, the village's reserve policies being met along with current liquidity levels, the village's robust budget development, such as scenario analysis to help ensure resilience against economic fluctuations, and thorough monitoring of results that aids in responsiveness to budget fluctuations.
Well, that's
So,
fantastic.
Very great news.
Yeah.
And we are very happy with the results.
Thank you for that report. That's fantastic. Great, thank you.
That's all I had.
I'm glad we got that. Thank you. Attorney Jerusik?
No report tonight.
Okay, very good. Thank you, everybody. We are now, our next item is regarding closed meeting. And so we are going to recess and adjourn to closed meeting. Do I see this name?
We need a motion and a roll call.
Okay.
That'd be my motion, to recess and adjourn to a closed meeting for the purpose of discussion of the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the village pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statute 120/2, paren 6, pending litigation pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statute 120/2, paren 11, and probable and imminent litigation pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statute 120/2, paren 11.
And that was a motion to that. May we have a second, please?
I'll second.
And we need a roll call?
Yes.
Roll call for that, please.
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Tiro.
Aye.
Motion
Okay.
passes.
Thank you. Then we are adjourning to closed session, and then we will come back to. No action. For no action.
Simply do